It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of February 27th, 1998. And the more we go deep into what was opening after Titanic, the more you start to realize why Titanic lasted as long as it did as the number one movie at the box office. Because most of these movies that did not even come close to topping it were good enough to really surpass the mark that Titanic was setting at this point. I mean, at this point, Titanic was the number one movie for 11 weeks, and it only dropped 6% from the week before. It was still making $20 million up to this point a weekend, and there were very few films that would come close to it. The Wedding Singer was one of the ones that would come close. Good Will Hunting. Meanwhile, the new releases, not so much. But not to say there wasn't any good films that came out during this 3-month stretch when Titanic was the number one film. Case in point, probably one of the best ones to come out of this batch of films, and that is, of course, Alex Proyas's Dark City. Of course, Dark City has Rufus Sewell playing an amnesiac man who, finding himself suspected of murder, attempts to discover his true identity and clear his name while on the run from the police and a mysterious group known as the Strangers. You see the cast there that includes William Hurt, Kiefer Sutherland, Jennifer Connelly, Ian Richardson. David S. Goyer was one of the writers on this film as well. And it's an original film, too. I thought this was based off of previous material, but I'm looking on here, and there's nothing on here about this being based off of anything. This is an original concept film, which I did not realize until much later on down the road. But yeah, you can see why this movie became the cult classic that it did. I mean, it was a positive reviewed film when it came out, but it was a box office bomb when it came out. It just barely crossed the $27 million budget. But they spent more on the marketing and all that. But it also doesn't help that this kind of has sort of a similar traction to what happened with Blade Runner, because you basically have the studio telling Proyas to put in an explanatory voiceover in the beginning, and he agreed to it. And when the director's cut came out, they took it out, and it works a lot better than without the narration there. Kind of like what happened with Blade Runner. It works a lot better when you don't have the narration there. And the movie is just a phenomenal film to look at. Visually, it's one of the most gorgeous-looking films that you can see. Dark and grisly, but it has its own visual, vibrant flair to it that just makes it stand out over other movies of its type. Like, it's very hard to create original science fiction, and the fact that Alex Proyas made a great original sci-fi film with this concept is really, really something to it's really something amazing to look at. I mean, and a great cast overall. William Hurt, Rufus Sewell, Kiefer Sutherland, Jennifer Connelly looking as hot as she's ever been. And just a great story, great villains overall. The strangers are very good, are very cool characters to see. The cinematography is top notch. The music overall is very good. It's just a masterpiece, man. It's a great underrated sci-fi film that has slowly but surely garnered its following over the years. And needless to say, you could definitely see why. It's a great film that just works on so many levels. It's just a truly triumphant film that just really didn't get the right attention when it came out, but luckily it has had that lasting longevity to it ever since it's come out. It's become the cult classic that it is, and it is considered one of the best sci-fi movies of the last 25 years, and you can definitely see why. It lives up to all the hype and then some. It's a classic film. I can't recommend it enough. Go see Dark City if you haven't seen it already. You will not be disappointed by it. Terrific film. And So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, this lighthearted, funny comedy with Richard Dreyfuss and Jenna Elfman called Krippendorf's Tribe that's not going to look dated whatsoever.
Anthropologist James Krippendorf was given $100,000 to find the last undiscovered tribe of New Guinea. Unfortunately, he didn't find a thing.
Well, I guess you can come home again.
How are you?
He's a little flatulent today.
Oh, that was him.
Tonight, his colleagues are expecting a tribe.
So this is my lecture
on the undiscovered tribe of New Guinea.
On the undiscovered tribe of New Guinea.
Of course.
Which,
I discovered.
So he's going to invent one.
Do they have a name?
Of course they have a name.
That takes talent. You do have film, don't you?
Of course he has film.
Touchstone Pictures presents
Hi, guys. Hey, the shopping booth do not allow the pictures taken without the ritual body paint on.
Nicely put.
It is our way.
Yo!
the story of a little deception.
Who is the adult in this room? Don't answer that! Let's get this show on the road.
That goes a long, long way.
Would any of you be interested in watching the mating rituals of the Shalmikidmo?
You mean sex videos?
As the Shalmikidmo might say, Jagabondo!
What the hell was that? Keep in mind, this is 1998, and they seriously let this go in 1998. I'm at a loss for words at how bad this movie is. I mean, the poster does not look as bad as it does here, but yeah, I just had to stop and really look at that and go, did I just watch what I think I just watched? And yep, it's basically what you think it is. It's basically a dumbed-down version of Wag the Dog, pretty much, except instead of trying to create a fake war, you have Richard Dreyfuss creating a fake tribe and going all out with the racial stereotypes, because that is racial stereotyping right there. And it's just like, I really don't know what else to say about that. I mean, I don't think I need to say anything else about this movie. This is an absolutely horrible movie that is just, it's uncomfortable to watch. This is 1998. Even in 1998, this should not have passed. For Disney, like, this is inexcusable that you let this pass and you thought that this was going to pass as something that people would want to see. Like, I mean, it's already bad enough that you can't believe that a 50-year-old Richard Dreyfuss would have a sexual relationship with a 27-year-old Jenna Elfman. Like, this is right at the peak of her Dharma and Greg. This is when Dharma and Greg was just getting started, I should say, but like, yeah, 50, 27, like, that's already ridiculous enough to really that's already ridiculous enough, but, the fact that they went all in on this, like, they really went in on this, and they just said racial stereotypes and all, and, it's a bad sitcom, and sure enough, it's directed by a guy who's known for directing sitcoms, Todd Holland, who's become more of a prolific television director, mostly with his work on Malcolm in the Middle, but, I mean, just, wow. Nobody looked at this movie and said, are we sure we want to do this? Are we really sure we want to do this? And, nobody said anything, and sure enough, here it is, and wouldn't you know it, the movie bombed hard at the box office, but, yeah, surprising, I know. I mean, you would think that people wouldn't mind these white kids being dressed up in like, blackface and all that type of stuff. And not even blackface, but like, it's just so uncomfortable. Like, it's a movie that even I would have loved to have seen what the reactions to this in 1998 would have been. Can you imagine if they did this now in modern times with social media and like Twitter and Facebook and all, Instagram and all that, Snapchat, all that type of stuff? Like, you think people would really look at this and go like, yeah, this is something that we can buy into? No, they would have easily trashed this so much. This thing wouldn't have made a dime at the box office if they tried to pull this nowadays. Like, it's unbelievable they got away with this. They got away with this movie, and it's just not a funny movie. If it was a funny movie, then maybe we could let it slide. Like Tropic Thunder, we can let slide because Robert Downey Jr.'s character, yeah, he's in blackface, but it's a parody. He's making a point in that movie. But this is almost career killing for Richard Dreyfuss. Like, I don't think his career really transpired it's got any better after this particular film. I'm trying to see here. Let me see. What came after Krippendorf's Tribe? Okay, there's a couple of films. So at least he did kind of make a comeback after this, because, I mean, there's stuff in there that he did that actually was pretty decent. The Crew, he was in Poseidon, he was Dick Cheney in W. I mean, not a whole lot, but still, like this could have been easily a career-killing movie for him. But hey, everybody survived it. Everyone went on to have bigger careers after. Not even bigger careers. Everyone's careers went back on track after this, and I just can't believe that somebody at Disney greenlit this and thought that this was A-okay, but it is, and according to them, and it's just like, just wow, just absolutely wow that they got away with this. So let's try to get back on track here with the next movie here. Let's get away from Krippendorf's Tribe and move on to the next film, Caught Up.
Allen is looking to change his luck.
You ain't going back into the game.
I got me some other plans now. But bad luck always had a way of finding him first.
All of a sudden, I'm getting chased and shot at every time I turn around. I ain't going out like no punk.
Caught Up, rated R, starts February 27th.
So you basically have a story about this guy named Daryl Allen who's caught in the line of fire, and after 6 years behind bars, he's played by Bokeem Woodbine. He puts down his gun and struggles to go legit. But when this beautiful, mysterious young woman gets involved with a bag of stolen diamonds, corrupt cops, and a Jamaican mobster, his dreams for an honest future are shattered by a hail of gunfire, and I think honestly you can pretty much tell where this is going. Cinda Williams plays the love interest in here. You have cameos by Snoop Dogg and LL Cool J. And notably, this is the last film produced by Live Entertainment before they eventually were turned into Artisan Entertainment, which in turn, later on down the road, would be picked up by Lionsgate, and that's what Lionsgate eventually would become. But I really don't know anything about this movie. I've never seen it before. I never hear anybody really talk about it all that much, so I'm just going to assume that it's not that memorable of a film, especially despite the names that they have on board here. I mean, Jeffrey Combs, Michael Clark Duncan, as I mentioned, LL Cool J and Snoop Dogg are in here, Tony Todd, Clifton Powell. I mean, there are notable names in here, but just, it feels like a movie that we've seen done to death, but I've never heard anybody say you have to check it out, so I don't see any real reason to check it out, quite honestly. I mean, it might be something, but I sincerely doubt it. So let's go ahead and move on to another film. Let's go on to the next film, David Schwimmer and Jason Lee, starring in Kissing a Fool.
Ever been in a period where you just didn't want to have sex?
No.
When it comes to dating,
What up, Chicago?
sportscaster Max Abbott is a man in his element.
Oh, hello.
But when it comes to marriage,
It hit me. This is the last woman you're ever going to sleep with.
it's a whole new ballgame.
Jay, he's such a great guy, don't you think?
I don't believe this.
David Schwimmer, Jason Lee,
I think that Max thinks that we should be together.
Kissing a Fool.
4 shots, vodka.
Rated R. Starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
Because when I think of a womanizing guy, I think of Ross from Friends. And when I think of a neurotic novelist, I think of Earl from My Name is Earl. Start to see why this movie doesn't make any sense. This is a film that is written by Doug Ellen, who also gave us the man who would later give us Entourage, and James Fry, who also gave us the infamous A Million Little Pieces, as well as My Friend Leonard. And so, yeah, you've kind of seen this premise before, pretty much. I mean, you have two guys fighting over a woman, and Jay introduces his editor, Samantha, to Max, Jay being played by Jason Lee, Max being played by David Schwimmer. Max wants Jay to try to seduce Sam to test her before their wedding, and even that premise alone sounds really freaking stupid. I mean, it's just an idea that just feels like it's just It makes no sense whatsoever. The casting on this is terrible. It's a really bad romantic comedy. It's a terrible movie that just... You hate everybody in this movie. You hate every single person. You hate the two leads. You hate this woman that they set her up, that Jay sets up Max with, and you just hate everybody else in here. They're going along with this, and they're just like, no, we need to make people believe that this is something that could actually happen in real life. No, it can't. None of this can happen in real life. Just it's like the reason why Entourage works, even though it has that same kind of feeling of like anything can happen with these guys here, and it's just like we could at least buy it with that movie, with that series, because because the characters were fun to watch. We didn't really necessarily like them all that much, but they were likable. They were characters that we liked watching, seeing how low they would go. Of course, that backfired when they eventually made it into the Entourage movie, which is a whole nother animal altogether. But this is not a good movie at all. This is a really, really terrible romantic comedy that just... The casting is just all wrong. The story is just all wrong. It's a lame romantic comedy. It's just not inventive. It's not fun. It's a boring movie. It's a really bland, forgettable movie that just has nothing of value to it whatsoever. Just like our next movie, which is The Real Blonde.
Explore modern romance in a film the New York Times calls edgily funny.
I'm a very spiritual person. Are you really? Have you seen A Little Mermaid?
Sharp and clever.
Do you think just once you can lift the toilet seat?
Honest and intelligent.
I am your therapist, but I've entertained sexual thoughts about you many times.
Better leave.
It's a wickedly observant comedy.
Still need to check for the rent.
What? Again?
Yeah, it kind of works that way, once a month.
The Real Blonde. Rated R. Now playing in select theaters.
So basically, you have this couple that's been living together in Manhattan for 6 years. The guy's an actor, he has no agent, no thespian credits, but whose ambitions are very high and works as a waiter in a cafe, while you have this woman who works as a makeup stylist for this hot fashion photographer, and she pays most of the bills. The guy finally lowers his standards and accepts a degrading job in a Madonna video, while his friend and co-waiter gets a high-paying job on a soap opera opposite siren Kelly. Kelly being played by Daryl Hannah in this movie. The couple is played by Matthew Modine and Kathleen Keener. You have people like Maxwell Caulfield, Elizabeth Berkley, Marlo Thomas, Reggie Wilson, Buck Henry, Christopher Lloyd, Kathleen Turner, Dennis Leary. Just a good cast overall here, but it doesn't really do anything to make it stand out. It's nothing unique. It's nothing that exciting. Like, you don't even get to see Madonna in this movie. You'd think Madonna coming into the movie would actually have some fun elements to it, but nope. She's not in here, so her role, so she's only there because of a name drop, and that's pretty much it. It's just like, there's just nothing here, man. It's a movie that's not really all that funny. It's not really that creative. It's just a boring, bland, mediocre comedy that has nothing of value to it whatsoever. It's a bad film, and this director, Tom DiCillo, has not made a whole lot of good films during his career. He gave us Johnny Suede. The only movie he's ever made that's been really great is Living in Oblivion, but other than that, though, his filmography is not that strong, so yeah, that's The Real Blonde. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is an Alan Smithee film, Burn Hollywood Burn.
Anticipated motion picture event of the year. Hollywood's hardest-hitting action stars. A white-knuckle thrill ride. There's just one problem with this movie. The director doesn't want you to see it.
What? A big story from Hollywood. The director of the blockbuster film Trio
has stolen his own film from the lab and disappeared.
What? The motion picture that takes aim at Tinseltown. An Alan Smithee film. Burn, Hollywood, burn.
It's about art. It's about entertaining people. And the critics love it. It could have been cut a little tighter.
The Hollywood Reporter raves it's one of the funniest movies in ages.
I'm a producer, not a pimp. There's a difference.
And LA Weekly calls it hilarious. Jackie Chan, Ryan O'Neal, Chuck D, Richard Jennings, Sandra Bernhardt, Coolio, Eric Idle, and written by Joe Esterhaus.
You're at the pinnacle of your career, and you're going to burn your own film. Why?
It's worse than Showgirls.
An Alan Smithee film. Burn, Hollywood. Burn.
Yeah, Jackie Chan does not have a big role in this movie, even though they put him first on there because he's the big star of this. He's the big star that was the hot star at this point. But you know, this could have been a fun film. It's a movie about Eric Idle playing a director named Alan Smithee, which is a traditional pseudonym used in Hollywood for disowning a project. Or at least it was until they discontinued it, and I'll get into that in just a second. But Idle plays the Smithee in this, who steals the negatives. It's his latest film as he goes on the run. And the concept of this was basically actually set off a chain of events, which actually led to the Directors Guild of America to discontinue the Alan Smithee credit in 2000 after its use of decades, when an American director disavowed a film. And the plot basically is the director attempting to disown a film, ironically despite describing the film's own production, because Arthur Hiller himself, the director of this movie, wanted his name off of this was after witnessing the final cut. So they all knew this was a bad movie, and they still went with it anyway. Like, I mean, it's got names in here, but not a whole lot of names. I mean, Eric Idle, Ryan O'Neal, Coolio, Chuck D, Richard Jenney, Sandra Bernhard, Harvey Weinstein. Yeah, Harvey Weinstein's in this movie, because of course he is. Gavin Polone, Stephen Tobolowsky, Dina Spivey. The cameos, Sylvester Stallone, Whoopi Goldberg, Jackie Chan, Robert Evans, Robert Shapiro, Shane Black, Lisa Canning, Joe Esterhaus, Larry King, Dominique Dunn, Billy Bob Thornton, Norman Jewison, Billy Barty, and Joe Esterhaus. Man, this is the film that you would think that after so many bad movies like Showgirls and Jade and One Night Stand, this is but he'd be done. But nope, this is the worst film he's ever made as a filmmaker, and that says a lot because wow, like, this is absolutely horrible. This is one of the worst things you will ever see. One of the worst comedies you'll ever see. And it's just amazing how bad this movie is. The fact that this movie killed off the Alan Smithee is the Alan Smithee name is something to believe. It's something amazing. It's just like in case you're wondering, some of the names that have the name Alan Smithee on them, here's a list right here. Fade In, Death of a Gunfighter, The Challenge, City of Fear, Appointment with Fear, Stitches, Let's Get Harry, Morgan Stewart's Coming Home, Ghost Fever, I Love New York, Catch Fire, The Shrimp on the Barbie, Solar Crisis, The Birds 2, Land's End, Hellraiser Bloodline, which we actually talked about on one of these shows, Mighty Ducks the Movie, The First Face-Off, a direct-to-video Disney animated film, has the name Alan Smithee on it. This film, A River Made to Drown In, Woman Wanted, and Old 37. Half of those movies you probably never even heard of, but even the ones that you know of, just, like, I still can't get over somebody would use a name like Alan Smithee on an animated Disney film. Even if it's a direct-to-video movie, it's just like it's just... And you know what? There is a good idea here for something funny. Like, you could actually do something clever with it, but the movie does not. It's Joe Esterhaus. Like, what do you expect from him after what he did is after the double whammy of Jade and Showgirls, and then following it up with One Night Stand? Like, this is clearly a guy that just does not give a crap anymore. And here's the end result of it: a film that is not that clever, it's not that funny, it's not even. It's a safe, watered down movie that doesn't want to go dig deep into Hollywood like it should. Because if we did that, because we can't do that, because we can't give away all of Hollywood's deep dark secrets. Why not? I mean, Tropic Thunder did that so much better than anything that this movie would ever do. And it's just like go all in, just go all in and go out. Is go attack Hollywood. No, I can't do that because that would be good. That would cause me to get blacklisted. Just like, so what? Like, if you're not even gonna put the effort into it, then don't make the movie. Plain and simple. Just don't make the movie. And sadly, somebody did, and this is the end result of it. One of the worst movies you will ever see. I think it's just easily safe to say, avoid Alan Smithee films. Burn Hollywood, burn like the plague. I don't even want to say the name of it because I just want to move on to the last film here. Let's end this on a much better note, or at least try to end this on a much better note. The Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love documentary, Kurt and Courtney. From the same director that gave us Heidi Fleiss, America's Madam. This is basically a documentary, and you can pretty much tell what the title is, involving the circumstances surrounding the 1994 death of Kurt Cobain. It actually has allegations of Courtney Love's involvement in it. In fact, Courtney Love herself refused to let the music from Nirvana be used for the project, so the director, Nick Broomfield, was forced to use various other bands from the Pacific Northwest. People like Zeke, The Dwarves, Roz Rezabek, Theater of Sheep, and Earth. And the movie as a whole doesn't actually live up to the same levels that something like Heidi Fleiss' American Madam does. And I think it's mostly because there's too many interviews and not much going into what the actual allegations are with Courtney Love. Like, what is it, like, how is her involvement in this so important here? And the film doesn't really feel like it wants to go down that route. And it never really just wants to say out there that there's a good possibility that she was actually very much in control whenever of what happened when Kurt Cobain died. But, like, it never really draws anything. It just says it and then just moves on to something else. And there's just way too many interviews in this movie. There's way too many interviews from people in this film to really get you invested in this, because you really don't know what's going on. You really don't know what they're trying to go for here. And at the end of it, you just never feel like you get any investment out of it. It's a film that just, like, it has so many interesting ideas, so much potential to it, but it just never really goes there. And it's like, why did you even bother to make this movie if you're not going to go out and just go all in? It's kind of like with the Alan Smithee movie. Like, if you're going to make this movie, go all in and put these theories out there. I mean, put this stuff out there so you could actually make this a very intriguing film. And it doesn't even do that. It can't do that. And it's a real missed opportunity for something really, really important to be told about what happened with Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love. And it just doesn't work that way. It's a film that's just kind of like, it's like watching a bad court TV special, or a bad, like, it's like watching, what do I want to say? Who's got those really bad documentaries now on TV? Like, it's like watching a bad Netflix documentary where they try to get you invested in the story, and they don't exactly tell you what's actually you want to hear. They just want to tell you to think about what you think should happen here. Come up with your own conspiracy theories, because it's like, that's what it feels like watching this movie. It feels like a conspiracy theory that's not really well thought out at all. It's a movie that's just like, it's an overall mess of a film. It's a film that should have been so much better, considering that the director had made some other great documentaries before this, but it's just not. It's a bad, bad film. That's Kurt and Courtney. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we come to a movie that comes ever so close to finally knocking off Titanic, but missed it by that much. It's the spin-off to The Fugitive with Tommy Lee Jones and Wesley Snipes, U.S. Marshals. We have Twilight, not that Twilight, but the other Twilight with Paul Newman in it and Susan Sarandon. We also have Hush. We have one of my all-time favorite movies, the Coen Brothers' The Big Lebowski. We have the IMAX documentary Everest, Love and Death on Long Island, A Personal Journey with Martin Scorsese through American movies, and The Leading Man. So 8 movies overall to look at next time around, and we'll delve into all of those next time. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time for another video. So until then, take care.